So we have with us Ayşenur Karabulut, PhD candidate from the University of Sussex. Ayşenur Karabulut is a final year PhD candidate at the University of Sussex in Media and Film. She obtained her BA in Preschool Teaching Education and MA in Family Education and Counseling at the Dukus Hailul University and Educational Studies at the University of Warwick. Ayşenur is an artist researcher interested in interdisciplinary creative and critical practice informed by the theories of media, pedagogy, psychology, and performance. In her doctoral study, she focuses on designing pre-based and child-led approaches to theater by blending the tools of play with digital media and to enhance the theater-making experience and foster self-development in childhood and adolescence. Her presentation title is Building Bridges Between Theater and Psychology to Facilitate Self-Development in Childhood. Aisha?
Thank you so much, and thank you for...
So we have with us Ayşenur Karabulut, PhD candidate from the University of Sussex. Ayşenur Karabulut is a final year PhD candidate at the University of Sussex in Media and Film. She obtained her BA in Preschool Teaching Education and MA in Family Education and Counseling at the Dukus Hailul University and Educational Studies at the University of Warwick. Ayşenur is an artist researcher interested in interdisciplinary creative and critical practice informed by the theories of media, pedagogy, psychology, and performance. In her doctoral study, she focuses on designing pre-based and child-led approaches to theater by blending the tools of play with digital media and to enhance the theater-making experience and foster self-development in childhood and adolescence. Her presentation title is Building Bridges Between Theater and Psychology to Facilitate Self-Development in Childhood. Aisha?
Thank you so much, and thank you for arranging this. Thank you to Ido and Danny. It's been a great pleasure to be part of this. And so far, there have been great conversations, great talks and discussions. So I'm really happy to be part of this. So let me start sharing with my screen. So my talk is about building digital bridges between theatre and psychology because, I have background in psychology and counselling, and I am also interested in theatre. I have also background in educational theatre and storytelling theatre. So I was wondering how these two components coming together to do something beneficial for children. And I'm also interested in social emotional development and emotional intelligence. So I was wondering how these are all coming together and would be beneficial for children to improve their self-development. So the idea to come up with this research was an interesting one because I was really frustrated by the idea of this binary thinking when it comes to childhood and arts for children. So to start with, in drama and theatre studies, we do sometimes often claim that drama and theatre are good for us. In his book, Handbook for Educational Theatre, Robert Landy says that drama and theatre are good for us. So we do say drama and theatre are good for children, but not necessarily we do prove the fact that why it's good for children and in which ways that is good for children. And on the other hand, if it is so good for children, why is it not common? Why there isn't enough professional practices out there? So in his blog, Richard Ward says, once dismissed worthy but unprofessional when he's describing children's theatre. So if it is worthy, why is it still unprofessional? Why there aren't enough professional examples out there? And we also need to think about, what is professional when it comes to children's theatre? What is aesthetics? And who's the audience? Why children's theatre needs to be pleasing to the audience and in which ways? So there are also binary thinking in terms of technology. So it's very straightforward. Technology is good for children and technology is harmful to children, harmful to society. So I think we should also think about this binary thinking as well. Why we think that technology is good for children, overall. I think we really need to discuss the ideas that in which ways exactly technology is good for children, or in which ways it could be harmful for children. And the same goes for technology, the relationship between technology and theatre. So there's a huge debate about using modern technologies, new technologies in theatre and on stage, in drama. So one might say that technology transforms theatre for the better, and the other one might say that modern theatre relies too much on technology, heavily on technology, that the technology overwhelms the theatrical experience. So I was wondering if there's any, way between this binary thinking, challenging this way, this thinking with interdisciplinary approach, because I think technology is good and bad for children, or drama and theatre could be good and bad for children. But what's important is the way we use these tools for children. So I was really wondering if there's any methodology and approach that we could develop for children that would be beneficial to them. But when we talk about children's theatre, the children, like childhood, is a really, how to say, really vast the definition, because children could be like from a 4-year-old to 18 years old, but we know that in the first three to 4 years of life there's been a huge development in children's life, and a 5 years old's abilities could be extensively different from 6 years old's abilities. So we should definitely have the developmental aspect when we think about children's theatre, when we think about anything that we do with children. So I wanted to design a project which is called Blackfish Project. It's inspired by Little Blackfish story written by Samet Bahrangi. And it's about a story of the little blackfish living in a small pond, but he wants to, or she wants to, explore what is beyond this pond, what is happening out there. So she wants to travel, she wants to explore, and she ends up in the sea. And she met like so many dangerous animals and creatures, and she has learned like an important lesson for her. So in this project, I was inspired by the idea of using developmental psychology and critical pedagogy. And when it comes to critical pedagogy, I was really interested to see how like process-based and child-led approaches work with theatre, especially for children's theatre, and how these would enhance children's self-development as well as the theatre making experience, because we know that digital media can really enhance the experience, like visuality or the beauty aspect of the theatre. So but also we also need to be careful about blending these tools. Like if we only expose the idea of digital media, I think we would be doing a little bit of mistake. I think there should still be a consideration of using play, drama, and we should always consider children's developmental stage and what is appropriate for their development. So in my research questions, I looked at the impact of theatre making, because my intervention was theatre making, and I looked at what is the impact of theatre making on self-development of children in early childhood and early adolescence. So this was a two-phase study. I did one study with early years and one study with adolescents, but because it's a long study, I will be only sharing the results of the adolescents, which is the second field work. And my second research question was, how can theatre making tools and directorial practices be selected and implemented to respond to the age-related needs of young people? And the third question was, in which ways digital technologies help enhancing the theatre making experience for children? And the methodology. So this is a practice-led research. And the location, the first one with the early years was in a public school, but the second one we were lucky enough to be in a drama center where we have like high technology, a black box theater, good sound design, audio design and everything, which is like a gift for children's theater that we don't necessarily have those kind of resources. And the project took 12 weeks and 21 hours in total. And there has been like 15 individuals of mixed age and gender, from 11 to 14 years old. And my directorial aims and approach was like facilitating and encouraging adolescents' agency to create their own narratives in theatre, to do to create their own stories. And in this study, I also took the devising approach, where each participant takes various roles and responsibilities to create a performance. Because in theater generally, especially in children's theater, I see that children stuck with the idea of acting and acting only. And if children are not interested in acting that much, or if they are not confident enough to do acting, they struggle in theater, because theater is different from other educational aspects. I'm talking about educational theater at the moment. Other educational aspects is different because you sit in a circle. There is no one sitting in front of you that you can hide behind and not answer a question. You are readily and vulnerably present. So if children are not happy with their environment, if they're feeling stressed or feeling forced to do something like to do an improvisation, then it could definitely be not that pleasant experience for children. So I was trying to tackle with the issue, to give them various roles, not only acting, but all sorts of different roles that I'm going to talk about. And I collected the qualitative and quantitative data. Quantitative data is collected through a bunch of questionnaires here that you can see. And I also do qualitative data collection through using interviews with children. And the data is analyzed, the quantitative data is analyzed through sample t-test, paired sample t-test. And the qualitative data is analyzed through reflexive thematic analysis, which I'm really a fan of. And the devising process, here, what I did, I'm not going to say differently, but what I did, I think worked for us, is not only working on acting, but also giving children an opportunity to work in different aspects in theater, because theater is like a kitchen. There's so many roles and so many responsibilities that you should be able to take care of. So I gave them the activities about drama games and storytelling, improvisation. There have been in-group activities with small groups and large groups, so they don't necessarily start working with large group of people. So they can start with in couples and small group, and then maybe in 15 altogether. And then for digital media aspect, we did live painting and animation. I'm going to talk about it later, and the sound design. So I think these kind of tools could really be helpful for children's theatre, where we have lack of funding and lack of resources and lack of professionality. So in terms of improving the quality of visual aesthetics, I think tools like animation, live painting, or good sound design could really change the course of the play, a children's play. And children also did costume design. They wrote the whole script themselves, and they also did acting. So in terms of the digital elements, we use Tactile. It's a live painting and animation app. It works live, and it works in company with the live performance. So I had 3 children doing the animation. They were doing live drawing, which is projected live onto the screen while the performance is still going on. So they were complementing each other. And we also use like a common virtual DJ software, DJ software, which is Virtual DJ, to do sound design and sound mixing. So what I found interesting here is children, 11, 12 years old children, could really calculate the timing precisely, and to draw whatever they need to draw and animate within that time frame, which is generally a very, very short amount of time, to respond to what is happening on stage live. So that requires a lot of cognitive abilities, as well as drawing abilities, motor skills. And in terms of the sound design, which is also interesting, that I did a lot of radio programs before, where I was, I was doing 2 decks layout, using 2 decks layout. But here I'm sharing the 4 deck layout in Virtual DJ, because when I introduced this program to the sound designer, he's a 13-year-old child, and he said that, Aisha, I can use more decks. And he just wanted to use more decks. He preferred to use 4 decks. So he was using exactly the layout that you're seeing at the moment to play music, to play sound effects during the live performance. So in terms of the results, obviously there are so many and so detailed results coming up from this study. I'm really proud of the results, but I had to summarize. So I would say that for the reflexive thematic analysis, the results suggested that the project has been effective in improving cognitive, personal, emotional, and social development of the adolescents, which is also valid for early years. For the analysis results, we saw that there has been a significant decrease in peer problems. So the participants who attended the study had shown significantly decreased peer problems. And there has been a meaningful increase in self-worth score of the girls and meaningful decrease in total difficulty scores of the boys. So we can see that, you know, when further looked at the results, we can see there could be like slight gender differences. So overall discussion, Blackfish Project has been effective, we can say, at facilitating self-development, boosting self-image and positive relationships in adolescents. And furthermore, I believe this research delves into demonstrating why theatre makers need to adapt their ideas, tools and techniques to meet the diverse needs of individuals in different developmental stages of their lives. And obviously, like every other study, this study has also limitations because there's a small sample, and there has been a need for further research that could usefully explore why children's theatre matter from developmental psychology perspective, or pedagogy, or digital performance. If you have any questions, if you want to ask about the early years aspect of the study or any other aspect of the study, you could contact me through email or through Twitter. I'm really using both of these platforms very effectively. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you very much for listening.